So, can we talk a little bit about the difference between a bioidentical hormone
Mhm.
therapy and a synthetic hormone?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's so important too, because I do think that there is such a confusion about a lot of different things. I mean, like, first of all, we'll talk about how hormone therapy has changed since the early 90s when we talk about the study we were all, learned about and the WHI study. So, the bioidentical are really the ones that you basically know that are out there. They're the estradiol, they've got all different brand names, and the progesterone that we all see with the little white pill. And the transdermal patch is bioidentical too. And so I think what gets people very confused and got me really confused was the fact that I thought like, oh, one of them is plant-based and that's going to be healthier for me. And the other one is like, that's going to be dangerous. And that's not what we're talking about here. So I wanted people to understand the difference between those things and the difference of what we were looking at back in the night before the 90s and in the 90s when we were looking at a different type of hormone therapy that was tested, because I think that was the most important thing for me to also get across. We get super confused. And then you add compounded on top of that. Most people don't realize that, you can't just go in and say, I need some testosterone, because we don't have it for us as women. We have men's, and then we have to get that compounded. So it's a dose that is just for us. And I had this conversation last night. I was out with a girlfriend and she said, I had no idea. She goes, the testosterone she's doing goes under her tongue. And if she does too much of it, she knows the difference if she does too much or not. And I went, oh my gosh, there's so many different things out there that we're just not aware of. And so it was important for me to know the difference between the synthetic, with the bioidentical, and compound. And compound, I think, gets a lot of people kind of tripped up of what exactly it is and why some things are compounded versus some things do not need to be.
Yeah, it's something that you added to in there that I appreciate personally because I didn't know about this until we had conversations with clinicians was pellets. And you
Hmm.
leave it in there. You put it in there, but you also say, look, a lot of
Yeah.
doctors don't recommend this
Yeah.
and the dangers that can be involved with pellets. So that is another thing when it comes to testosterone, which I adore,
Yeah.
but it,
I
it is,
know.
I know. And you include in there, and that is a whole thing that listeners that you're going to have to really read
Hmm.
about testosterone and why it's not
And
FDA
the
approved for
pushback
women
and
and the pushback and everything like that and the hoops we have to jump through and the expense that we have
And
to pay.
prescribed off label. Yeah.
Right,
I had to
right.
address that. And it's funny, like every time there was a new study or something came out, I was calling my publisher. I'm like, I have to add this because there's just been so much stuff. And they're like, no more. There's no
they're
more being
cutting
added.
you off.
So yeah, I
Yeah.
was cut off several times. But I wanted to just get in those basics because I think that there's so much confusion and there's not like just basic things like is gel better than cream or injection or there's so many different options out there and there's no one saying like how do we do this, just tell me what to do. And I feel
Right.
like at this stage that's how I felt like somebody just tell me what to do. And I don't want to tell anybody what to do, but I wanted to lay out some of those options so you can kind of see what
Mhm.
experts that we know recommend or not, or the pros and cons, and you can judge for yourself too. I mean, we're smart women, and quite frankly, a lot of us are very, very educated about menopause and could probably teach a lot of the experts about it at this point. And so I think that I have found this group of doctors that has been incredible. They've given me like a master's degree in menopause. And so I do feel like, I could really walk into the doctors that gave me my initial diagnosis and be like, let me tell you what's going on with my body. So I think that's what I wanted women to be able to have.
You've talked about movement, the importance of movement, but it's also not to fit into the stress or you talked about how you were in the 80s and 90s and how
Yes.
that's changed too. And we all I think we all were.
I
I
think we all
remember
relate
those.
to that.
I'm like
But
putting on
yeah,
tights with a leotard. How did I exercise in tights with a
with
leotard?
layers and things off my
Yes.
shoulder, I'd have fainted today. I'd be like,
I know.
I'd have sweated before I got to the gym.
Right. But you also, just talked about the different changes. Can you touch on some of those changes that are important now in our lifestyle?
Yeah, of course. I mean, look, I came from the Gen X of like less calories in, less fat in. And we didn't even talk about sugar or protein or any of that kind of stuff. Protein was like for guys. I remember that. Like, oh, you don't want to have too much protein. I remember those words. And then I remember going to the gym and being like, I'm going to get on the treadmill. I'm going to sweat out all my calories underneath the underneath the whatever it's a stairmaster, and make sure that I'm good and sweaty. And I never went. There was like the guys' weight room back there where it was all like the black mats and the mirrors, and it smelled like sweat and the metal bar. And I was like, what's going on back there? So my world has changed quite a bit, and I'm excited because I feel like a lot of other women are hearing that. So I go into the men's weight room now, in quotes, and it's all women, and I'm like, this is so great. This is the greatest thing. So my workouts kind of flipped on its head in terms of how I do things. It's weights and strength training 100%, trying to use my own body weight with certain things, whether it's the bands or if even smaller weights. That's a big deal to me. Walking, like, I don't know, back in the day, it's like walking is an exercise. Well, it is in a big way. And so I do that all the time. And then I think with regard to lifestyle changes of clothes and makeup and all that stuff, I tried to simplify a little bit in that world, and not because I can't wear something, but just because I feel like I just want it to be a little simpler these days. I want the granimals in my clothes. I want my stuff to go together. I don't want like 1,000 things that I'm rifling through that don't fit anymore. So I put like, well, then the days I feel like crap, I put that stuff in the front of the closet, and the days I feel great, that's, I can wear the other stuff. So I don't know. That's kind of how my lifestyle has changed. And I interviewed a lot of people for this, and asked for a lot of help with it in terms of people's stories, and just wanted to make sure that I think that we all felt the same way, kind of.
I can bring the book into the doctor and say,
Right.
here's an
They could just open, where did I
example.
leave my libido?
Yeah. I mean, really, that's such a great point, though, bringing it into the doctor, because you do have that there and you know what to ask. And you make that point as well in the book that
Thank
these are
you.
some things, these are some solutions. Can you do this for me? If you can't do this for me, like Colleen always says, and
Yeah,
everybody, break up with your doctor. You have,
totally.
yes, yeah, just
It's
have it
totally
there.
right.
If you're
Mhm.
ready to set boundaries in every other aspect of your life during the midlife transition, your health should be first and foremost.